Here's the dial side of the movement. This is where we're gonna install the keyless works and the motion works. There is a hole in the side of the movement right there where the stem goes in. In this opening right here is where we're going to drop in 2 components. There is a gear that goes in here that when the stem turns, this gear will turn the ratchet wheel on the mainspring barrel in order to wind the watch. And then in front of that, we're going to put in the clutch, which is what switches between winding mode and setting mode. The first thing we're going to put in is the gear. And the gear here has 2 sides. One side, which is the side you can see here, has engraved into it a sort of a clutch pattern that matches the pattern on the clutch gear that we're going to put in. Here's the clutch, and you can see that same pattern engraved on one side of it. There's the clutch on the side. The other side of the clutch has gear teeth in it, which interact with the gears for the motion works in order to set the time. Now we're going to put the winding gear in with the clutch pattern facing this direction, and then the clutch will be put in with its pattern facing that direction, so that the two will come together and catch when the clutch is pulled against the winding gear. You can see now I've got both the winding gear and the clutch both dropped into place in the proper alignment. The next thing we need to do is put in the stem. And the stem will go in through that hole in the side of the movement and will pass through the winding gear and the clutch. Now before we put the stem in, we're going to have to apply a little bit of grease to it. Here's the stem and crown. Now I've applied a little bit of grease to the square section of the stem. That's the section that's going to run through the middle of the clutch. And now we're ready to stick it into the movement. And I'll just stick it in through the hole on the side of the movement and make sure that it goes through the clutch and the winding gear properly. Okay, as you can see, I've got the stem in, and it's going through the 2 components, the gear and the clutch. Now I'm going to have to turn the movement over because on the other side of the movement is a retaining screw that holds the stem in place, and I need to tighten that back up. We loosened that at the very beginning of the service so that I could remove the stem, but now I need to tighten it back up. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Okay, this screw right here is the screw that had to be tightened down to keep the stem in. Now the stem will pull in and out a little bit, but it won't come all the way out now. And it does need to be able to move side to side so that we can pull it in and out to change from time setting to winding mode, but you don't want it coming all the way out. And so this retaining screw keeps it from coming out the rest of the way. Now that we've got that done, now we need to flip the movement back over again to the dial side so that we can install the rest of the components. I've got the movement turned back over to the dial side. The first thing we're going to do now is install the cannon pinion, which goes over the center post here. This is the bottom post from the center wheel. And before we put the cannon pinion over it, and this is the cannon pinion, before we put that over it, we're going to put a little bit of HP 1300 oil on the post before we slip the cannon pinion over it. After we slip the pinion over it, then we need to press it down so that it snaps into position. I've installed the cannon pinion onto the center post right there, and after I dropped it onto the post, I used the flat end of my tweezers to press down on it to snap it into place. And then after that, I put a little drop of HP 1300 oil on 2 other pins that are sticking up here. This one here is where the minute wheel is going to go, and this one here is where the intermediate wheel is going to go. Those both need a little drop of HP 1300 on it before we drop the wheels in place. We dropped in then the minute wheel onto its post. Make sure that the gears have engaged with the cannon pinion. The next thing we're going to put on is the intermediate wheel, which is what transfers the winding from the stem when you turn the stem to set the time to this wheel, which will let you then set the time. Okay, I've dropped in then the intermediate wheel, and we've got the minute wheel here. I've added a very small amount of oil to the very base of the cannon pinion, and that's because the hour wheel is going to sit on top of the cannon pinion and needs a little bit of oil. Here's our hour wheel. This sits directly on top of the cannon pinion. There we go. And notice how the little pinion on top of the minute wheel interacts with the gears on the outside of the hour wheel. So this is the motion works. This is what makes the hands moving in in perfect alignment with each other, so that every time the minute hand goes around the entire dial, the hour hand will move to one position 1 hour. Now, the next thing we need to install is the rest of the keyless works, the rest of the stuff that lets you pull the stem in and out to change between the winding mode and setting mode. Next, I've replaced this candy cane shaped spring that goes in here. You can see it kind of goes around that post and then back this direction. The next thing we're going to put in is the setting lever, which goes up against that spring, so we need to make sure that that doesn't fly out of there when we're putting the other lever in. I've got the setting lever in, and you can see that it had to go with the spring right along the back of it there, so it was kind of a pain to get in there because I had to push the spring back while getting this in at the same time. And the end of this has to go into the groove on the side of the clutch, so that when this moves back and when the lever moves back and forth, it pushes the clutch back and forth to switch between winding and time setting modes. Next thing we need to add is there's another lever that goes on top of this. Next, I've installed the detent lever, and this has a pin that sticks up here on the top, and there's another pin that sticks down at the bottom that goes into a groove on the stem, so that when the stem is pulled on out, that groove catches the pen on the bottom of this and makes it swivel around the post there, which pushes the setting lever in and out. Now, the next thing we're going to install on top of this is a metal plate that also has a spring for the detent that lets it lock into place when the stem is pushed in and out. And this plate also holds into place the gears for the motion works and the parts of the keyless works. I put the cover plate back on that covers up the keyless works and motion works. It's held on by 2 screws, one here and one here. Now, one thing to be aware of is, see that the little thin piece that comes out here? That's actually a spring that's built into it, and it needs to engage the pin on top of this lever right here. So make sure when you put that back in there that it's properly positioned right behind the lever. And we can see how this works now. Okay, we can see how this works now. When I pull the crown out, notice how the lever shifted to the other position on that little spring. It's like a detent that holds it in one of the 2 positions. This is pulled out for time setting, pushed in for winding. Time setting, winding.